I'm Shavir, founder of Lifespace. I'm joined by Malaika, head of marketing. In this episode, we're going to be covering two things. The first is Q1 review, and that's basically conversations that we've been having with our clients based on performance, followed by Q2 and what we can look out for. So in Q2, it's based on the conversations that we've been having and the levers that you can pull to actually see sales growth within your clinic. Malaika, to kick things off.
Yeah, exciting. I think the first quarter of this year basically flew by, but so much has happened, so many changes in the world, but also in our spaces, in our clinics. And I think one of the key factors that we definitely want to touch on is how did that obviously impact Q1? And how do we make the necessary changes before we step, obviously, into Q2? Understanding, like you mentioned, the levers that we need to pull to obviously get things moving for Q2. Make up if you need to for Q1, but of course, get straight into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think before we jump into, the couple of points that we have for Q1, what we've seen is with the war that's happening, with fuel prices, the instability in the economy, we have seen a dip specifically in March. So coming into Q1, January, February, we saw an uptrend, and then coming into March, I think over and above that, we had Easter weekend was, during the time of payday, which generally is towards the later month of April. So I think we did see some impact in results when it came to a couple of things. And I think that's something that we should note in addition to the couple of points that we have for Q1.
Yeah, 100%. I think, when a lot of instability happens across the globe, in South Africa, a lot of businesses obviously get impacted, but consumers also change the way they look at making purchase decisions. And I think that when you look at our clinics, and what they were able to achieve across January and February, which was fantastic because a lot of the times clinics think that Jan and Feb is going to be their very quiet periods because of, November and December being so busy. But in actual fact, it was the complete opposite. And then tiptoeing into the month of March, we saw literally a 360 change in that. And of course, yes, the global market, but also a couple of changes in terms of what's happening specifically on the platforms that clinics are advertising on, and then how buying behavior is changing consistently, taking into consideration, obviously, the global market as well as the platform changes.
Yeah. And I think heading into the first part of Q1 is reviewing what changes has happened on these platforms like Meta, which is our primary platform to generate for client acquisition for our clients. So the biggest challenge there we found was algorithm shifts. So again, the way we create ads, the way we target, and maybe you can just chat more about that.
Yeah. So of course, if you're running ads, you'll know that Meta has changed so many things over the last, I won't even say few months. I would say over the last 12 months. If you look at 2025, coming into 2026, so many things have changed specifically on the platform. And of course, the platform wants to make it easier for all of us as advertisers to get to our ideal customers faster. But the challenge is that if we don't understand how it wants us to use the platform, we end up doing the same thing and expecting different results. So one of the biggest shifts is that, we've seen this challenge, and in actual fact, one of the biggest mistakes that clinics usually make in the space, especially when it comes to advertising, is the way they advertise and the number of creatives they use to, of course, advertise, and going straight for the kill, right? Just speaking about a specific machine, cool tech, for example, and just going straight for that cool tech or that fat freezing offer instead of understanding that, firstly, people don't buy that way anymore. Secondly, the platform doesn't want you to advertise that way. It wants you to be able to nurture your customer or your client through various stages of their buying journey. And we'll touch a little bit more about that later on. But one of the biggest shifts was from a creative perspective. Essentially, if you understand who your avatar is, what are the various types of creatives we need to be creating in order to serve them with valuable pieces of information to help someone make an informed decision,
Yeah.
right? And so it's become super creative intensive where before you could run sort of one ad or one creative and you would get your results. And now, unfortunately, that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I think two points there to touch on. The first is, speaking on features rather than speaking on benefits rather than features. So again, a
Yeah.
lot of time you mentioned cool tech, they list the features of those cool tech machines. I think the other part to that is creative led. So what we found, especially with platforms like Meta, is it is creative led. So you have to have a creative strategy. We had a session with one of our clients, and specifically on micro needling as an example. And again, it targets different concerns. And the conversation was that we can't just advertise micro needling. We have to be specific in terms of what concerns is it, or what is that outcome that it's delivering for your ideal patient or your ideal client. So again, if it's pigmentation, is it acne, dull skin, you can have creatives that one offer, but different creatives targeting different pain points. So you're creating an ad, you're creating a video as an example, that's specific to pigmentation. That's
Yeah.
an offer, same pricing, same micro needling, is just that you're wrapping it differently.
Yeah.
So, and basically what Meta want to get at, and it's something that we've been doing in our agency as well. If we speaking specifically to clinics, specifically to dental practices, to physiotherapists as an example, to med spas, we're really specific. And what Meta is actually doing is a video that we're creating for clinics. It wants to get to a point where it's not showing that video to dental practices
Yeah.
or to physiotherapists. So it's really specific how Meta wants us to create ads and the way it wants to show those ads on the receiving side, because it doesn't, and literally doesn't want to show a dental practice a clinic ad. Yes,
Yeah.
it might be so close from a niche perspective, but in terms of the offering, but it wants us as advertisers to create really specific type of ads.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why Meta's obviously gone this way is they are literally on the hunt to make sure that the experience on their platform matches what people's expectations are. So, like you mentioned, if I own a dental practice, I don't want to be seeing content that's not relevant to me from a personal capacity, neither as a business owner, specifically in my dental practice. And so when we look at all of this content that, again, we know people are sharing billions of pieces of content on a daily basis, is that they want to be able to serve you specific to what your need is, where it is. And we spoke about customer buying behavior. It goes back to that, is understanding, Malaika, who are you? What are you interested in? And when can I serve you the right piece of content in order for you to possibly make the next decision? Because that's how their ecosystem, of course, works. If they fail at that, they fail at the user experience, but then they also fail advertisers at getting them the best outcome from a lead's perspective. So when you go too broad, Meta is unable to break it down and find exactly who that ad belongs to or that piece of content belongs to. And that's when you start to find the type of leads that come through your funnels end up being quite terrible from a quality perspective. So it's not necessarily, the fact that Meta is giving you bad leads. It's actually the fact that the way you've positioned your creatives is so broad that Meta cannot effectively deliver that ad to the right people at the right time.
Yeah. Okay. So to in terms of Q1 review, creative-led strategy, that's given, especially on platforms like Meta, when you are advertising specific type of treatments or offers. The second part of what we discovered in Q1 is the number of touch points that's
Yeah.
needed to actually get a sale. So a lot of times, and we work with a lot of different types of clients, different stages in their business, and the expectation is, hey, let's turn on an ad. Yes, we start getting leads immediately, but it doesn't mean that the client is ready to book now and come in. So, and I know we'll speak about more on the strategy when we go into the Q2 review, but in terms of touch points, how many touch points do you think a client needs? And let's look at, a typical treatment like maybe a microneedling.
Yeah.
How many touch points have you seen does someone need in order for them to convert?
Yeah. This is actually such an important question that I think needs to be answered. And in actual fact, based on industry standards and what we are seeing, the shift from a customer behavior perspective is that a customer actually needs between 7 to 10 touch points before they actually make a purchase decision. And so those 7 to 10 touch points means that it's throughout their buying journey, right? The stage before they actually pitch up to their appointment. So a couple of ways to obviously get to those 7 to 10 is that, yes, you may have received the lead. Maybe they saw your ad twice, 2 different pieces of content for the similar skin concern, perhaps, that they have, and that is why they're interested in microneedling. They submit their details, but it actually doesn't stop there because technically that was only 2 touch points. All right. And then that's where you need to now activate nurturing. You need to have other creatives that retarget them when they go back onto Meta, for instance. So again, having other specific creatives, whether it's a testimonial, for instance, helping them further along that journey, and maybe WhatsApp messages that give them more valuable pieces of information regarding the actual treatment. Maybe now it's time to talk about some of the medical related benefits that it has, whether it's science backed, medical grade, etc. But all of that, the multiple messages, the multiple retargeting touch points, help someone actually say yes. So when that lead comes in, we should never forget that that's not the yes. That's the, okay, you got my interest, you got my attention. And now we need to get to that sort of 10 touch points in order for someone to actually say, okay, I'm ready now. I've confirmed that booking. I will actually pitch up.
Yeah. And as we head into Q2, I think one of the strategies that we see work well, number one is when you're running creatives, and let's go with microneedling for pigmentation or dull skin as an example. You have different ads that you're running, and then that specific person is going to see those creatives. That's a touch point. So if they're seeing that ad 2 or 3 times, great. I feel like this is a treatment for me. Let me click on that ad. Let me submit my details. Once they submit their details, I think that's where you need to ensure that you have your customer journey mapped out.
Yeah.
So number one, do you have automations, WhatsApp automations? Do you have email automations? So what that means is as soon as someone submits their details, you're sending them a personalized video on WhatsApp, telling them more about their treatment. That's probably your second or third touch point. Then you're sending them emails. You're putting them into a 7-day email sequence where you're telling them more about the specific
Yeah.
treatment, adding some videos there. So what happens is when your booking manager or receptionist calls them, or when you're confirming that appointment, they already have all of the information to say, yes, I'm coming in. But then
Yeah.
what happens is as soon as someone submits the details, a lot of clinics and clients think that, okay, that's the conversion. They submitted their details, they're going to pitch up. But that's just 20% of the work done.
Yeah.
The other 80% is you providing more value so that you can actually convert them into that showed up client.
Yeah. The space is so competitive, right? From a clinic perspective. And again, regardless of the type of practice you may be running, but it's so competitive. And I think social media has allowed people the privilege to get as much information as they need before they actually say yes. And so there's a few questions that, customers obviously want to make sure that they actually have answers to before they decide is this the right place for me? And before they even go to the trust question, they ask themselves questions like, the results that I'm seeing, is this actually real? Is it real results? Does this specific clinic understand someone like me? Because we know I could suffer with hyperpigmentation, but the next person suffers with hyperpigmentation, but they have extreme sensitivity in their skin. And so we know that the same treatments may or may not work for each of us. And then they go to the trust questions like, can I trust this clinic with my face or with my body? Is this clinic a premium clinic, or am I going to go there and get a treatment done and come out botched? We've heard some horror stories. In actual fact, one of our clients actually told me a story about what inspired her to actually take the next steps and open up her own clinic. And she went through some very scary experiences with a few face and body treatments that she went through. And she said, this cannot be it. And she went because she had very specific health concerns that she was trying to fix. And of course, it was going to help her from a lifestyle perspective if she solved those concerns. But unfortunately, the clinics that she entrusted with her face and her body turned out to actually impact her health. And she had to, obviously go through this whole process where she had to go through and fix that. And now, obviously, she did her studying, she did what she needed to do to learn the space and understand the space and bring in properly qualified people. And now her clinic is of course, thriving. I want to ask you, of course, from what we are seeing specifically across our accounts, do you think that clinics underestimate the amount of nurturing and value they need to actually add to their potential clients before they actually see the sale happen?
Yeah. I think and then that goes to value-based marketing, where you provide value first before asking for the sale. So even the multiple touch points that we just spoke about, in those touch points, it's you providing value. It's not necessarily saying that I tried to call you, that's a touch point. It isn't, right? Or I asked you for what's your availability, that's a touch point. It's not, because you're not adding value. So I would say when you look at, marketing as a whole, it's all about value. So based on what we're seeing and with our clients as well, I think we want to push them more towards being authority and leaders in the market when it comes to information.
Yeah.
Whether it's hair transplant, whether it's skin treatments, weight loss, etc. You want to be able to educate the market. And I think that's the clinics that's going to thrive are the ones who's able to give as much information without holding anything back. You and I recently, we had a client reach out to us to say, hey, in your ads, in your content, you guys give out so much of information like what we're currently doing. Like, don't you feel other agencies or other companies are going to take that information and do something about it? But, what we've learned is that you rather give that information because the impact that it can have nurtures even our potential clients to see the value that we give our current clients to say, hey, I want to be part of that. So within our own business, I mean, we're currently doing it where we're sharing insights and we're sharing value. And I think more clinics need to take that approach. And not just clinics, even if you're looking at dental practices as an example, if you're looking at treatments like Invisalign, there's so much of opportunity there. But most ads we see is people asking them for the book now, not educating them on Invisalign. How does the treatment work? How long would you need this for? What does the payment plan look like, etc. So education is really important. And I think that's the market and that's where social media is coming into play, is that people are going to social media not to buy, they're going onto social media to learn more about your business. And that's the perfect time to educate them and then ask them for a sale or for a booking.
Yeah. I think from my perspective as well, to add on to that, is now it helps us actually understand how, from an advertising perspective, how Meta wants to prioritize the right audiences for you, and you being specific and taking into account now that we know the number of touch points people actually need, you can actually get very specific about who your avatar is, understand them really, really well. What are the questions they're actually asking? What type of information do they need on in general to before they actually make a purchase decision? And then you reverse engineer all of your touch points, even from a creative perspective. You're able to get very specific, and that's how your ads actually turn out way more profitable, because you're getting specific and you know that when your ideal avatar sees that piece of content or that ad coming from you, that it feels like you're speaking directly to them. And we've had clients actually say that to us, like, did you hear what I just said? I was just having a conversation with my partner or my spouse, and this was what I said I need in my business. And then I saw your ad come up, or I saw a piece of content come up. That's literally how you want them to feel, is that you are answering and taking care of all of their pain points.
Yeah. And I think that leads us to, the next point in Q2. And the next trend that we're seeing is an avatar, creating an avatar. And funny enough, there was a clinic owner that reached out to me. And this specific owner downloaded our practice growth playbook, or clinic growth playbook. And one of the chapters there speaks about creating an avatar and why an avatar is so important. And what she actually did was she asked her therapist and somatologist to create avatars for who are the ideal clients. What do they look like? Describe them. Do they work in corporate? And literally she asked each of her therapists and somatologists to create an avatar for the treatments that they performed, right? And literally when we creating our ads, as an example, and when she's creating the ads, it's based on who do my therapists want in their room? Who are your best clients? Let's find more of them. And literally that made marketing and advertising so easy when you know who you're targeting. And again, this didn't come from the business owner. It didn't come from some fancy strategist. It didn't even come from us. It came from the therapist to say, hey, and funny enough, the different therapists and somatologists, their avatars were completely different. And that's specific targeting, because you're looking for a specific type of person. And that's what, and again, it goes back to our previous point, that's what people are looking for. Are you speaking specifically to me? When I'm looking at that ad, mentioning to my spouse that, hey, I feel like this ad is specific to me. And people want to see more of that. And I think a lot of the data that a lot of owners are looking for, if you're looking to scale and get more of your ideal clients, is have conversations with your team. They know who your best clients are, and ask them to give you that information. Create an avatar. And if you're actually looking for more information on how to create an avatar, in the link in the description, we'll add where you can download our playbook, and it actually walks you through this entire process. So I definitely think it's an exercise that you can be doing in Q2, which will obviously set you up for Q3 and Q4 as well.
Yeah. Earlier we spoke about obviously leading with machine or product information to get someone to actually take the next step. But the truth is, that's where the biggest problem lies. And when you don't understand who your avatar is, you aren't able to know the problem that you're actually solving. And when we speak about leading rather with the pain or the problem that you solve, showcase the transformation, speak about the benefits that transformation adds to your life or your lifestyle, and then back it up with, the specifics around the product or the machine. We know that the stages that someone uses to make an informed decision, that's how they do it. But if you don't understand your avatar, that's where the biggest mistake happens. And then you feel like your advertising or ad spend rather is not profitable enough, because you're getting leads that don't match the offer that you have in the market. So I think that is very critical, is starting with the avatar allows you to understand, again, who they are, what their pain points are, and then follow that process when you're creating an ad, is understand the pain and the problem and highlight that, showcase what the transformation, of course, is, and then lead with backup, which is talking about medical grade and science backed and all of those stuff. Because the truth of the matter is, people don't buy a radio frequency treatment, right? They buy a treatment that's going to solve saggy or excessive skin after losing weight for health reasons, for example. So yeah, I think you have to figure out who your avatar is so that when you present the actual outcome, it makes sense specifically to them.
Yeah. So I believe we covered the why. Why do we do? Why are we doing this? Why are we saying create an avatar? Why are we saying top of funnel, create value-based marketing? We covered the why. I think the how is really important. So I'm sure, there's a clinic owner that's watching to say, great, I know this work. I'm going to create my avatar, but how do we actually do this? So the how would be is, and maybe we can spend the next 5-10 minutes speaking about the how. So the how is not asking for the sale right now, not asking to book a meeting right now. So we're looking at top of funnel. Top of funnel is creating awareness
Yeah.
before someone goes into the next stage, which is consideration, I believe. So awareness, you need as much people to raise their hand to say, I'm interested in this. So the easiest and quickest way to do this is by creating lead magnets. A lead magnet, there's different formats of lead magnet. There's ebooks, there's videos, there's what else? Yeah, we call them VSLs. Playbooks, like our practice growth playbook is a lead magnet. So there's different formats, right? There's a checklist as an example. There's a free AI skin analysis. That's a lead magnet. But basically a lead magnet is something that's free, or high value content offer. In other words, something that's free, it's valuable, and someone would actually say, I'll pay for this. So you want to make it as valuable as possible. And you need to be able to make sure that it's something that's scalable.
Yeah.
So let's look at, a skin treatment or let's look at a hair restoration, right? Creating a top of funnel, high value lead magnet is something where it's like a checklist, or even if it's a video that sits there, but it's maybe a 40-minute video where you're walking someone through this entire process when it comes to hair transformation or hair restoration. So exactly what is it? What is the cost implications? And adding a button there to say, download this checklist, which someone can read after watching this video. So the whole idea when you're looking at value-based marketing is educating as much as possible. And there's various formats. And what we want to see more in the market, and it's conversation that we've been having with our clients, is asking less for book now, more for download this or watch this.
Yeah.
Or I'll email this to you. So even if you're looking at a budget, if you have a 10,000 Rand ad budget, we want to get to a point where we're spending 7,000 Rand on educating and 3,000 Rand on asking someone to book now.
When we talk about making your ads profitable, that is one of the key components to making sure it actually is profitable. Because essentially, we mentioned earlier that your ideal avatar, they asking you specific questions. And if you're able to consistently add value to them without asking for anything in return and answer all of those questions, you are the first person they are going to choose when it's time for them to make the buying decision. We also know that in all markets, in most of the medical markets and other industries, only 3% of your ideal customers are actually ready to buy right now. And so then the question arises, what happens to the 97%? And that's literally where our high value content offers come in. Because if you're talking about, for instance, a body contouring package, someone wants to know, am I the ideal candidate for this? Because there's so many different things that you can do to contour your body, for instance. And not everybody, by the way, is doing it to have this perfect summer body. Most people actually have specific lifestyle requirements or needs or health concerns for why they are looking to reduce fat and things like that. So these high value content offers, depending on how you position them, allow you to actually get to the 97% of people. That's where you see massive profit margins, because you're not fighting for the 3%, you focused on the larger market, which is what we call it, and you able to speak directly to them again, of course, understanding that avatar, body contouring, there's so many different segments to it. So when you get specific to fat reduction and reducing cellulite or tightening skin, for instance, that's two different avatars that we're actually speaking to. And essentially our high value content offers allow us to speak directly to that person, explain to them, show them that they are the right candidate, prove your trust and your credibility and expertise in the market. Now, when you go to ask them for the sale, to book that appointment, they will say yes. Sometimes the yes even comes before you ask. Why? Because you've added so much of value.
Yeah, yeah. And I think maybe to be more specific in what that would look like. So a high value content offer, let's say it's a guide, right? It's the 2026 guide to non-surgical facelifts. That's the high value offer. Someone comes, they download it on a landing page, etc. Once they download it, they're getting a personalized email plus a WhatsApp message for them to read this guide. Once someone is consuming that, they're getting more information about what this treatment is about. Because again, you're using this lead magnet to educate someone on a treatment or service that you're offering. So literally what you want to do is push them further down the funnel. So, we use that example. If you're spending 7,000 Rand as an example, promoting this non-surgical facelift guide, right? When someone downloads it, what's going to happen is you're going to push them into your funnel where once they're in your funnel, you're able to now nurture them towards taking that next step, which is booking. So the amount of people that would download it, number one, because it's free, right? Who wouldn't want it? Versus the number of people who would click on an ad to say book now. Like you can't even measure that because you're going to get much more people coming into your funnel. Then what happens is once they're in your funnel, you're going to use a framework that we currently use for our clients, which is called BAND, Budget, Authority, Need, and Timing. There, you're going to put either an application form or form where someone can complete, and based on their responses, you would then disqualify them or qualify them for this specific treatment. So that way, you're getting as much people to come into your funnel, top of funnel, and then middle and bottom of funnel is where you're using this BAND framework, Budget, Authority, Need, and Timing, to then qualify them whether they are a good fit. So if you're continuously getting as much people to come in, top of funnel, and then educate them and then use this BAND framework, your bookings are going to increase.
100%. And I think that one of the misconceptions is that, in this top of funnel, when I'm adding value, I actually need to see a return. But patience in your top of funnel will allow you to actually see the return, because in your middle of funnel, when you do start to create those specific offers and you start creating offers that are jam-packed, it's not, okay, book your micro needling session now because you know that it's for you. It's stacked up with value. It's stacked up with that specific skin consultation to make sure that the treatment is tailored to your needs and the treatment costs X amount, for instance, right? It's stacked up, but someone's not just only coming for the free thing, because we already gave them a couple of free things and they trust you and they want to take the next step with you. But now they're saying, oh, I'm not going to be painted with the same paintbrush. I'm going to go there. The clinic already understands who I am. They're going to make sure that whatever the treatment is, it's actually tailored specifically to my skin concerns or my actual needs.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And I love the point, because it's generally what we're seeing in the market, especially with our clients and clients that we are speaking to. The next 2 points that we want to cover to wrap up our Q2 trends is number one, AI employee, and number two, attracting high value clients. So when it comes to AI employee, and we're not going to dive deep into the use cases, etc., but maybe just a quick story. It's a solution that we recently launched. We've been testing it for almost 12 months. We took it to market. It's been about 3 or 4 months now where we launched it with our existing clients.
Yeah.
So an example there, right? And what this means. Number one, AI isn't here to replace your team. How we're using it is to enable them to get better results for your clinic and help them do their jobs better. So an AI employee is just an enhancement. It's not a replacement. That's really important. So you still need to have a strong team, especially your
Yeah.
front desk, booking manager, receptionist, practice manager. They still need, you need to have someone strong in there, and then AI is there to work alongside them to
Yeah.
take away those repetitive tasks. So an example that I recently saw that blew my mind, right, was that we onboarded a clinic. The practice manager or booking manager was averaging around 8 to 10 new bookings per day, picking up the phone, calling. With the same ad spend, with the same workload, we were able to increase that booking to 18 new bookings per day. With this, like literally, the practice manager had same amount of work, same amount of ad spend, but we were able to almost double the number of bookings. The reason being is because the people who, or the leads that the booking manager couldn't get hold of, the AI employee was following up, nurturing them, and then getting them to confirm a slot without the booking manager ever picking up that phone. So phase one was as soon as a lead comes in, the AI employee is having a conversation, handing it over to the booking manager. If the booking manager couldn't get hold of them, it's moving them to uncontactable, and then the AI employee is then activating and then having a conversation with these leads on WhatsApp so that we can get them to confirm. And literally we doubled the booking within the first 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
So again, it's your same ad spend, same amount of expenses, but now we literally almost doubling the number of bookings, which potentially means double the amount of revenue for the specific clinic. So again, there's so many different use cases. That was just the follow-up use case, but there's so many different use cases where AI can come and plug in your specific clinic so that you don't have that revenue leakage that we are currently seeing.
Yeah. You know, that specific use case is such a critical one as well. I mean, among all of the others, because I think first and foremost, this AI employee, it's not a chatbot. It's not just, click one and click two and I'll give you this and I'll give you that. It really is conversational. It understands, like we've been talking about, understanding who your avatar actually is. What do they need? What information do we need to share with you? And I think now you can start to see all of the dots being connected, even when we talk about touch points. The thing is, with our front desk and our booking team, our booking managers, there's only that much of capacity they have as well. And so what happens is I get on the phone, I try to call, I didn't answer. It didn't mean that Malaika wasn't interested. Maybe Malaika is sitting and recording this podcast right now, but I'm still interested. And then because of time, what happens is the booking manager or the front desk says, okay, I couldn't get a hold of Malaika. And because of the volume of people that would be requesting for a booking, you end up forgetting about the ones that came in yesterday, right? And that's where that big revenue leak, like you mentioned, comes in, because we only have that amount of time, whereas the AI employee works 24/7, is able to do all of the tasks and more from a touch point perspective, not get annoyed when we need to add more value or actually answer more questions. Maybe instead of 10 touch points, the specific person needed 18, right? But it's able to be flexible enough to ensure that we don't lose a potential client just because we didn't have enough time to do so.
Yeah.
And that's where scaling, if you're looking to scale, that's where plugging something like this into your business becomes such a game changer, because you're not only relying on human, right? We allow the humans to focus on the experience, the in-person, those touch points, and the AI employee is able to get to the nitty-gritty stuff, the stuff that most people don't necessarily want to do, but do it effective enough. Give me a booking date as well, and help me actually go right to the end for confirming my booking and reminding me in a valuable way, rather than just getting lost, because the competition is so high that 2 minutes after I submitted my details to you, I go back online and guess what? I'm flooded with 10 more ads for the same treatment. So literally it's speed first and then it's nurturing.
Yeah, I agree. And that's basically it. So even when you look at, you're running campaigns to generate leads. If you're getting 10 leads coming in, if your expectation is that I'm going to convert 9 and they're going to come in over the next 7 days and great, that doesn't happen. If you're looking at these guys in terms of where they are in your funnel, it's not that they're not interested. It's just that, especially with platforms like Meta, it is high volume, meaning that you are going to get a lot of leads. And then we refer to them, and a lot of our clients as well refer to them as unqualified leads. But it simply means that they're not ready to buy right now. And if you're using that band framework, budget, authority, need, and timing, it's probably one of those.
Yeah.
And then what the AI employee is doing is it's nurturing them on your behalf. So that same 10 leads that you got, and you maybe managed to only get 2 bookings from there, the other 8 isn't disqualified. They just need more touch points, like you mentioned. And an AI employee is able to do that. So that tomorrow, when you get 10 more leads and 2 book, that other 8 are in a nurturing sequence. So you're adding 8 new potential leads or potential customers into your nurturing sequence. If you do this over time, you're going to convert more with the same ad spend. And what we're trying to do, even with our clients, one of our strategies isn't to increase your ad spend. It's to convert more of the leads that we're currently getting. And the only way we're seeing that happen is, number one, to creating SOPs and training sessions for the employees, like the therapists and the booking managers and the front desk team, so that we can train them and better equip them. So that's the first thing that we're doing. The second thing is enabling them with AI, allowing certain of the repetitive tasks, like when a lead comes in, getting the AI employee to have a personalized conversation on WhatsApp, like that we're seeing is working really well. And I mean, the front desk team loves it because the AI is able to have those conversations, especially those frequently asked conversations at scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely something that we've seen is working. Maybe just to spend the next couple of minutes, high value clients, attraction offers. So number one, attraction offer is creating an offer. Even though it's a 1,000 Rand treatment, it doesn't mean that it's going to attract low ticket clients. It just means that you're getting more people to say yes, and then it's your responsibility, or the AI's responsibility, to upsell them to your 4,000 Rand packages. So an attraction offer there is really important, especially when you head into Q2, is to get as many people to say, yes, I'm interested in this. And then you need to have an upsell strategy in place.
Yeah. I think one of the things we've seen in the market over the last few months is that people obviously go in, clinic owners go in, their offers are for all of their higher ticket treatments. But again, in order to build trust with someone and for them to say, I am going to consistently choose you, it's all of the stuff that we've been talking about, right? It's the touch points, it's, the speed to that lead, it's the nurturing, it's all of that. But it's also understanding how, specifically here in the South African market, because I know a lot of people consume content from all over the world, but we fail to understand that South Africans buy differently. And so how do they actually buy? And so having that attraction offer allows you to actually tap more into not just the 3% we spoke about who's ready to buy right now, but more people in the 97% who are making a decision and don't mind parting with X, right? And then that X allows them to see a result, try and test you, and then say, yes, definitely, this is the clinic that I want to go on this journey with. And we're not looking to get as many new feet in and then say goodbye to them. So that post-treatment experience becomes very important as well. But it allows you to get as many people in and now not just see them the first time, but show them your expertise and the value and the results that they can get from you through the treatments and the services that you offer, and then put them on an actual journey, an actual program, and not just, okay, let us know when you're ready to book your next appointment. You have the opportunity to actually show them how you can get them to the desired result for the reason they came in the first place.
And I think that's typically for most of your treatments, right? Where you have an attraction offer. But what about those that have their ticket sizes are 5, 10, 15, 20 grands? Hair transplant as an example, anywhere from 40 to 60K, if not more. So how do you create offers? Because now you can't have an attraction offer. What that means, and it's something that we spoke about earlier on, is that you need to invest more into your top of funnel lead magnets.
Yeah.
So the more expensive you're offering, the more you need to educate, because the more touch points someone needs in order to convert into a booking or into a sale. So that's really important. For attraction, that's your bread and butter. That's to get as many feet into your treatment rooms. But if you're looking at your higher ticket treatments, that's where you definitely need to have a top of funnel, high value content offers, educating as much as you possibly can so that you allow your nurturing sequences to get the conversion.
Yeah. And I believe that that is where most clinics actually underestimate the amount of consistency you need to do that, whether it's at the top of funnel, in those high value content offers for your higher ticket treatments. The more you push on that, the more consistency, the more value you add, automatically people move further down your funnel faster, and then you start to see conversion. Again, it goes back to obviously the consistency, but also the patience in understanding the customer journey. Not everything happens right now.
Yeah.
So, leveraging that and understanding how to set it up so that you're actually building a pipeline, right? We know from a sales perspective, it's not just about bookings, it's actually about building a lucrative pipeline big enough that month on month, you actually see X percentage of conversion from that pipeline, and it just continues to happen. So you're not chasing the race of, scaling on an ad spend perspective is always going to be necessary depending on what your revenue goals actually are. But you still have a pipeline fresh enough that is consistently being nurtured in order for them to convert.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So as we wrap up this episode, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found value in the session. But again, the insights that Malaika and I are sharing are from real conversations that we are having with clients, potential clients, and again, that allows us to share this type of information. I'm really excited about our next session. In our next episode, we're going to be speaking specifically around booking managers and the importance of how we can leverage booking managers to actually double your revenue and help you open up additional locations, hire more therapists, whatever growth might look like in your specific location or your specific clinic. So in that episode, we're breaking down the SOPs and the systems that we are using and we are sharing with our clients in terms of getting them results. And it's something that's not spoken about, where we're focusing about the leads, the AI, etc. But your biggest asset is literally in your clinic, and that's your team. And how do we empower them so that they are actually excelling in their roles, and they're obviously making you more money?
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that one. And I hope that you've found valuable questions that you can ask yourself in order to solve the specific problems, or maybe you've identified places where you actually know that you're not doing it correctly. Like Shavir mentioned, in the description box below, the link to our clinic growth playbook will help you answer that. And of course, feel free to reach out to us for any assistance on that as well.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Thanks.